Eager to join.
And Sophie's in her nest.
Yes. We're live a lot sooner than one would expect.
Hi. Hello, all. I can't even say welcome to Tuesday afternoon, Generational Change,
This will
special
definitely
live
be
stream.
a first, that's for sure.
We're not typically on now, but this will be kind of cool. And
no, this is very important because obviously we have a very special guest who's coming on, and we wanted to accommodate her schedule, not the other way around. That's the way it should be, right?
Well, it is, and also it has to do with, kind of how, whether it's people we really want to get on versus people that really want to come on. So it's kind of like,
Well, needless to say, the importance of this race, it goes without saying, it is exceptionally important. It is the mayoral race for Buffalo, New York. You would think under these normal circumstances that having won the Democratic primary in an exceptionally Democratic city, that would be all she wrote, but apparently it's not. So we want to make sure that this lovely lady, who is an exceptional leader now and for hopefully many years to come, is going to be representing the city of Buffalo in exactly 5 weeks from today. So everybody who will be joining, please hit the like button. And we are very thrilled to welcome into the studio for the first time, and definitely not the last time, India Walton. Welcome to Generational Change.
You need to change.
Oh, this. I apologize.
He doesn't understand.
Yes.
There we go. There we go.
How would I know that unless we had a second we had that second frame in? So, well, where do you want to begin? I, of course, will start with the Buffalo Bills, so you don't want me to start.
For God's sake. No, I've been wanting to meet you and talk with you for a long time. I'm very there it is. There it is. Now you got
it. Jen's a Dolphins fan.
I am a Dolphins fan. I have no hate for look, all of my hate is directed towards the Patriots. I don't have any extra hate left over. So
well, we have something in common then.
See, that's the thing. And I've never had and the truth is I really like Buffalo. I've spent a lot of time there in the past few years. My son went to a summer program near East Aurora. And so I've spent some time there and I really like it. I think it's a very cool place. And I was very, very happy when I saw that not only were we getting a woman, because always it's a bonus, but the fact that you're a socialist, and I hate using that like it's a label, because personally I just don't like it's, but that is what's newsworthy, and that is, I think, what's stirring the pot a lot. So you're facing an inordinate amount of unusual roadblocks, like that just would not normally happen. Would you talk a little bit about what they have been running around scurrying, trying to do since you won the primary? Because they see the writing on the wall. They've got to have see, it's a Hail Mary play. Mm-hmm. There you go.
It is the Hail Mary of the century. So I won the Democratic primary. 65% of registered voters in Buffalo are Democrats, right? So you win the Democratic primary, traditionally it's assumed you're the presumptive mayor. Well, the 16-year, 4-term incumbent didn't concede. He started a write-in campaign. And not only is he doing a write-in campaign, but a couple of weeks ago, he got a local judge to rule that our state Board of Elections deadline to file independent nominating petitions was unconstitutional and put him back on the ballot. So we had to appeal that decision. We went to court. We got him off the ballot, but now like all of this Republican money is being flooded into the race. There's independent expenditures. There are commercials that are like blatantly lying, saying I'm going to lay off 100 police officers who are all going to be people of color and women. A video surfaced last night of him saying that I'm going to allow rapists free and sex predators. It's just ridiculous. But, he has so much power and privilege and money that they're able to play these things on a constant loop. And, the more people hear this stuff, the more likely they are to actually believe that it's true. So it's funny in a way, and then in a way it's kind of not, because we won fair and square and really want to bring positive change for working class people in Buffalo. And we're up against this monumental, pretty nasty fight.
Yeah, something else I had heard of, which strikes me as completely filthy, is this push to create a city manager position which would essentially, I mean, there's some cities that have, there's a lot of cities with both, like there's mayors and city managers. It's not like it's unheard of. But for people who don't know, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that your commission has now been going or trying to figure out, okay, so if she's going to win, what can we do to make it so there's no power there? And they're going about creating an appointed position of city manager that was it or was it not there? And obviously to me, this is a play to minimize any power you would have upon becoming mayor.
Yeah, I didn't really see the city manager position as a dig at me. I saw the city manager position as a reaction from our city council because they have been operating without the cooperation of the current mayor. There was a very controversial school zone speed camera that was illegally fining drivers in the city of Buffalo that the Common Council, our city council, said they wanted ended. They voted by majority twice to have the program ended, and the mayor doubled down on it and refused to end the program. So I think that was more of an expression of frustration from our city council that as the legislative body, they really didn't have the cooperation of the executive branch of our government. And I've been working with our city council even before I won the primary, before I was running. I find them to be a reasonable body of leadership that really, for the most part, represents people. And I look forward to working with them when I assume office in January.
I'm glad to hear that, because I was thinking it was very underhanded. Like the timing of it appeared as such. So I'm glad you clarified.
India, the thing that we like to emphasize a lot on our podcasts, especially with anybody who runs for political office, the real dividing issue here is corporate special interest money. I have no doubt that that is the defining issue between you and former Mayor Brown, and it will stay that way, Mr. Brown. That I would like to think that the biggest reason that they're coming after you so hard is, Buffalo is the second largest city in the state of New York, and I have no doubt that there is a lot of corporate special interests that are in that city that have relied on Mayor Brown's office to do business, if you will, for the past decade and a half. And now with someone like you coming in who is not bought and paid for by corporate special interests, I would like to think that of all the reasons that they are desperately trying to derail your campaign, that would be the number one reason. Would you agree with that?
I do agree. And I know that for them, it must be pretty scary to have someone come in and say like, hey, we're going to prioritize working class people. But what I've been telling them is that it's going to be fine. They'll continue to be rich. And when people are less poor and have more money to spend, it ultimately benefits everyone. And it's just lost on me why there are some people who believe that it's okay for a certain section of the population to suffer while everyone else is fine and living their best lives, when we have enough resources for everyone to live a quality and healthy life. And that's all it is that I'm trying to accomplish. And it's my hope that even people with corporate interests eventually will come around and want to work together to make Buffalo better for all of us.
Yeah, and I definitely agree that that is the standalone issue. A lot of times people are looking for, well, it's this reason and it's that reason. It's like, no, there are individuals in government who benefit from corporate special interests, allowing them to stay in positions of power because they give them the resources to basically just do whatever they want. And that includes not worrying about having a living wage, not a green economy, which you desperately need. And then, of course, things like healthcare. So what we a lot of times in politics, especially in progressive politics, a lot of people get way too caught up in what goes on Capitol Hill. Federal politics is something they focus way too much on. Local, city, and state politics is exceptionally even more so important. So what are some of the things as the next, knock on wood, mayor of Buffalo that you plan to enact that is going to pay dividends for the citizens of the city fairly quickly, if you will?
Yeah. So my last job, I was actually the director of a nonprofit that I co-founded called the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust that creates permanently affordable housing through a democratically led community planning process. So one of the things that I'm most excited about is being able to expand that model citywide to make sure that folks have access to affordable housing. Here in New York State, there is a looming eviction crisis. So all of this American Rescue Plan funding that's coming, we want to make sure that it gets out the door efficiently, so that folks are able to stay in place, protecting tenants and renters, but also small hometown landlords who have also taken a hit economically, while just also addressing a lot of our community healing needs, right? We still have a significant childhood lead poisoning issue. We have issues with public safety and violent crime, high unemployment. Buffalo is the third poorest city of its size in the country. And our childhood poverty right now was at about 52%. So my platform really centers around creating living wage, green jobs, and really putting forth the effort to not only begin to have conversations about how we reduce poverty, but actively undoing a lot of the systems that have been put in place that perpetuates concentrated poverty and disadvantage in certain neighborhoods, like reduced access to capital, policies from the banking industry, like redlining and not allowing mortgages. So really establishing alternative systems, like municipally funded revolving loan funds, micro mortgages, to allow people to purchase houses that have less value, right, but that need to be occupied, to put them back on the tax rolls, and really just give people a leg up to be able to begin to move through the socioeconomic ladder. So I think a lot of things.
I think that people in general don't realize what Buffalo is like, okay? Because it's New York, but Buffalo has, to me, and this is somebody, of course, from Florida, a very Midwestern kind of vibe to it. It's definitely a Great Lake city, and it seems to have a very similar kind of infrastructure and economy. And a lot of those places have been so basically forgotten. Industries have left, and I'm assuming that that's also really hit Buffalo hard. I mean, anything on the lake to me screams like Midwestern commerce and industry that has been forgotten. And I would think that there would be exponentially high unemployment as a result of some of that. And also you can tell that, there's some money there, but it's not a particularly affluent place. It's not like there's a huge amount of wealth. There's infinitely more just regular people. And I think that there is definitely need for an economic boost in that area, like we would feel in some place like Cleveland or what. I mean, it's really hurting in that way. And so if you would, it has nothing to do with people are thinking Manhattan. It really has nothing to do with that.
Right. Buffalo is nothing like Manhattan, right? Buffalo is a Rust Belt city that, and like you said, is very similar to a Cleveland, a Pittsburgh, right? We've seen the deindustrialization of the area. A lot of jobs locally are service-oriented, low-wage jobs. But I think that one of the things that's most encouraging to me is that Buffalo still has a very high density union and organized labor force for the most part. I don't know if you can see it there. But nice. in Buffalo, our Starbucks baristas are formally union. And I think that, union membership is a part of the foundation that allows people that upward mobility in the workplace and a say in their job through collective bargaining agreements. But, when you look at Buffalo, because of some of the tax credits that New York State gives to film producers in cities outside of New York, Buffalo is now the fourth leading city in film production in the country, only behind Los Angeles, Atlanta, and New York City. So there are industries here that have the potential to really change the trajectory of a lot of folks, but we just have to get people prepared and set up for success and make sure that we're creating diversity in these spaces. And the other thing that's really exciting to me, and some work that I did previously, was the legalization of adult use cannabis, right? Like this is an industry that has the potential to be a huge economic driver for the city of Buffalo and the region that not a lot of thought has been put into at the local level. But because I'm an organizer who worked on it, I've been thinking about it for a number of years, and I want to get folks prepared to go live in the industry when it is available.
Yeah,
I think it's just exceptionally. I get a very warm feeling talking to you. I feel like
That's
it's a new day.
nice.
It's like,
It's
God,
very refreshing.
we need more of this.
We need more regular people. We need more
people
regular
who are
people.
and again, I think the whole idea of, when you say you're going to do something, I don't see you as somebody who's going to be like, well, you know what, if the halls of power shut me down, that's it. I guess it's over. Like, no, you're the type of person who will actually encourage people to get into the streets and do as FDR said, make me do it.
Yeah.
Because if the people are out there and they're saying, no, this is what we want, then that's how it's going to get done, which I think is a great segue to what we probably would believe is the number one issue in New York State, which is, is there going to be an opportunity in 2022 to pass the New York Health Act? And I think with somebody like yourself really making a lot of noise about the fact that healthcare is a human right, and there is a lot of momentum. We had State Senator Gustavo Rivera on the podcast recently. He is obviously the champion of that policy. And it seems that with everything that transpired in the New York mayoral race, even though the elected mayor is not a progressive, there were a heck of a lot of...
We've seen movement.
Yeah, we saw a heck of a lot of city council members that won. You had the support of the Working Families Party, I believe the Sunrise Movement as well. When you have that, and the DSA. So when you have those groups getting behind you and having these new elected representatives, how do you see the momentum for the New York Health Act unfolding as we get to the next legislative session?
Because clearly you're revved up for it.
Yes.
I am. I'm a nurse, and even before I was politically active, like I believed in universal healthcare, right? Working in healthcare and knowing that we give preference to people with certain types of insurance or insurance period and just different treatments, but we're taught in school that you treat everyone equally, and our job is to heal bodies and spirits and support the whole human and whole person. I'm a huge proponent of the New York Health Act, and I do think that this new wave of progressive electeds is going to create the political will that all of the excuses that we've been fed in the past, you can no longer say that we can't do it because the people are calling for it. And like you said, when we put people in position, we haven't won, right? Winning elections is not the win. The win is when we compel those people to actually fight for and implement the policies that we won. And when they don't do that, we have to hold them accountable. Accountability is the real work, right? The election is one thing, but making sure that we hold the people that we put in these positions of power accountable is where the real work begins. And we have to have that sustained type of force to make sure that we get things like the New York Health Act passed, and hopefully eventually, have Medicare for all at the federal level. But we have a little ways to go on that.
Yeah, we always talk about this sort of inside outside strategy. I don't think people really understand how they have to work together. It's very, very important. Like, yes, you're going to get elected people such as yourself who believe in these things, but that alone isn't going to do it because you're still up against however many people in your realm that are not. But when you come at that with an army of people standing outside behind you, that's where the real power comes from. So I think that, especially with something like being the first state to pass, universal healthcare, I think it's going to be a massive thing. And I'm excited. I think New York is going to be the first one to go.
Well, Indy, as you know, and again, Buffalo is very, very close to the Canadian border. And that's how they did it in Canada. They passed it in Saskatchewan, and then eventually every province got it. And I just believe that that's how it's going to be here in the States. Being in Florida, Florida
will be the last.
Will be last. So New York is going to have to drag us into the 21st
like kicking
century.
And screaming.
Exactly. So that's the only way that it's ultimately going to happen. And I think that this is that issue that's also why I think corporate media is desperately trying to not put any real attention. I mean, I know that if the like the New York Times is giving any daylight, they're not giving it to you. They're trying to give it to the former mayor or that person who should not be named. That's just the way that entity particularly works. Are you finding any strong support perhaps from individuals who may not have supported you initially when you ran. But the fact that you did win the Democratic primary, there are those who are saying, look, she won. She should be the next mayor.
Well, there's the blue no matter who. And every once in a while that works in our favor.
That's
I mean,
true.
you know.
Yeah, there's a slow trickle of institutional support. I will give a huge shout out to our county Democratic chairman, Jeremy Zellner. Our local Democratic Party endorsed the incumbent in the primary, and after I won, they endorsed me, right? So like I am feeling some institutional support. Senator Sean Ryan, Assembly Member John Rivera have come out and publicly supported me. A county legislator by the name of April Baskin, who's also a Black woman, has come out in public support. And those are the things, you know, would I like to have more? Sure. But I also understand how politics works, especially how entrenched politics are in Buffalo, and having someone as powerful as Byron Brown, who's been in office as long as he has, and knowing the political climate and the fear of retribution that a lot of people, not only in government, but also in the private sector, have experienced and have been afraid of, right? People have called and said, I can't host this event at my establishment because I got a phone call, right? Like that is the reality of what we're dealing with. So I'm telling people that this is a big tent campaign. I understand that everyone can't be public. Come when you're ready. I hold no grudges. My job is to do what's best for the people of Buffalo. I'm going to do that every single chance that I get. And I'm not going to put pressure on people to do things that are outside of their best interest. However, I do applaud those who are brave enough to come out and support, you know, before everything is completely settled.
1,000%.
People don't realize what goes on behind the scenes and the amount of power. I mean, like one of our biggest impediments here is organized labor, and the connection that our local AFL-CIO is with our sitting incumbent, even though she does so many things that are against the best interest of labor. That's who they're in bed with. That. And so we're dealing with, I'm just trying to do what's in labor's best interest. She's not, but yet they're not going to come out and publicly say anything. And so people don't understand how, like, they really close ranks on this.
And one of the things that I think is one of the most significant differences between New York and Florida, and one of the reasons why Wasserman Schultz is allowed to sit in Congress and basically is able to rule with an iron fist, especially with the AFL-CIO, we are a right-to-work state. And that really scares the hell out of any labor. I say it all the time. There is a very high up, powerful union leader in Broward County who absolutely supports her and would love to endorse her. But unfortunately, their union is attached to the AFL-CIO and he cannot go over his head. So there is this whole, yes, we would like to be there. So I think people really do need to understand, especially in India's case, guys, if you're watching, they do support her in many cases privately, even if they can't say it publicly, because these elected representatives, especially not just any, the ones who have been entrenched for decades, they will literally try to ruin your life if you come after them. That's how they continue to reign, because they rule with an iron fist. And I think those days of politics are slowly but surely going away, because people are getting tired of that, because they recognize that the ones who are entrenched that way, they're not getting anything done. In fact, they're regressing. They're making things infinitely worse. And so that, I think, in many ways is what is going to allow your mayoral, if you are, knock on wood, fortunate enough to be the next mayor, you're going to open up a plethora of new doors that no one has ever seen before. So as it stands right now, obviously we hear what goes on in the media. That doesn't matter. It matters what's actually going on in Buffalo. What would you say right now is the biggest impediment to you becoming the next mayor? What exactly are they doing that is
smearing,
could potentially stop? But what is it also that we can do to help to mitigate that issue?
So the mayor is on TV. Well, I have to stop saying the mayor is on TV, right? The mayor put me on TV. The mayor put me on TV in a commercial with false claims that I'm going to cut 100 positions from the police department, who are all going to be people of color and women. That's 100% false. I never said that. It's not a plan. We can cut, we can reallocate funding that's in the police budget that doesn't result in a single layoff. I heard him at a fundraiser publicly saying that I am going to release sex predators and rapists onto the streets. And that is also not true. I'm a survivor of sexual assault and domestic violence myself. And those things are particularly hurtful. And I think not only is it misinformation to voters, but it's also exhausting for me as a candidate to have to keep justifying and reliving traumas and things that I've experienced. So, what I need most is just support, right? Like moral support, but also, there's a ton of Republican and right-wing money being poured into this campaign to make sure that he does stay on TV. Lawsuits are being filed frivolously to drain our resources and make us just tired and wear us down. It's interesting that this interview got rescheduled because today, while I'm on with you, there's a fundraiser being planned for Ron DeSantis. Did you know that?
Not a surprise.
We're not surprised.
So
they're planning a fundraiser for Ron DeSantis up there
in Buffalo. The same base of support that Byron has here is hosting a fundraiser for Ron DeSantis in Buffalo this week.
Oh, look,
today.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're very much like ahead of like everybody else. We already see the trajectory. Unless something catastrophic happens, Ron DeSantis is very likely going to be the Republican nominee and very likely going to be the next president. And so when you start seeing a guy like that going into Buffalo to do fundraising, you already know where the GOP power brokers are or who they're getting behind. And it really just comes down to the legal issues with Trump, if that's going to change anything.
I mean, I think that it's very clear that the more that they resist, it's based on their fear of what you're capable of doing. And obviously, right, like when they're not concerned, they just ignore you. The fact that they're coming out and smearing you, but it's very frustrating because what happens is you end up spending your entire campaign on the defensive and not able to really be going out. And also there's money constraints. I mean, when you're not taking corporate money, you're never going to have the same amount of money. Right. And so you have to be like, okay, well, I can do like this ad and they can do like 100. So it's incredibly frustrating.
And what makes this even more personal is that we have a relationship with Nina Turner. And if you close your eyes really tight and don't listen to anything other than the points you've made, I would think that this was a carbon copy of exactly what just happened in Cleveland, which is not that far away from Buffalo. So to me, there really is this playbook that they're just going to continue to use, which is, smear, divide. That's all they've got. It's not like former mayor, that's what we'll call him, is going on TV and touting what a wonderful record he's gotten, how he should totally remain the mayor. Or the same was true of the lady who unfortunately won the primary in Cleveland. It was never about, hey, I'm going to fix things and I'm going to make life a lot better. No, your opponent is evil and terrible and don't vote for them. So I guess you got to vote for me. What other choice you got? That type of stuff, I really want to believe, is starting to go away. But beating that corporate special interest money is a hell of a fight because they will run those ads on loop. You could put on any TV show. You'll probably see it every time during the course
And what they do is they latch onto one thing. So at some point, you probably mention something about defunding police. And we all know what that means because we understand things such as, context and nuance. But it makes it very easy for those groups to kind of find something and be like, okay, well, if she believes this, then we'll straw man that and mean that, oh, she's just going to let rapists run free. Right. And that's their logical jump because they have nothing else. I mean, that's what it is. They have no substance to anything they're doing.
But then again, Buffalo is a city that is,
there's high crime, right? I mean,
it's not just that. You had the incident with, the police in the riot gear that knocked, I forgot the gentleman's name, who's like
Martin Gugino.
Yeah, 75 years old, this peace activist.
Oh, yeah.
And literally clubbed him right in the head. He bounced you could see it off the cement. And it's like, to me, that's one of those ads where it's like, and you really think the police need more money? Right. No, they don't.
Right.
And so if it was so simple, yes, we would be able to just run stream ads like that and just say, look, something's got to be done. But as Jen had suggested, we don't want you to have to play defense. So,
that's the problem. That's the problem. We need to be on offense.
So today, it's exactly 5 weeks. So over the next 5 weeks, What can people do? We obviously put your website up already.
They can send
IndiaWalton.com.
money, and they
Yes.
can also sign up to phone bank or text
Yep.
bank or whatever. But people need to, this is a very important race, people.
And for people in New York City, remember, there are trains from New York City that go to Buffalo. So
There are trains from New York City. There are buses, and it's only a 6-hour drive. So
Right, it's not so horrible. Can any of those trains ever make their way to Ithaca so that my son doesn't have the worst nightmare in ever trying to get home? Can maybe any of those trains connect there? I'm just saying.
Well, I'll tell you what, as mayor, knock on wood, as mayor of Buffalo, I think one of the primary issues in terms of the environmental movement is figuring out what it's going to take for us to finally get high-speed rail in the United States. I think that is that as much as anything could really mitigate and reduce our carbon footprint significantly. And if we were to have a high-speed rail system in a state like New York, that would be perfect because it would hit all of the cities.
Yeah.
Syracuse,
somehow
Buffalo,
the Finger Lakes always get forgotten. I don't know why, but you guys always forget the Finger Lakes. It's sort of like
the most beautiful place.
It's the most beautiful part of the state, which is even more interesting. That's
I know,
I
know, but they probably also have a lot of their own restrictions on things like development and on things like that, so that they keep it nice and not overpopulated.
That's true.
As well.
It also happens.
I mean,
until you're in Binghamton and until you're out in Buffalo, that is a red part of New York. So that's one thing I will say about the red counties, and we see that in certain places here in Florida. They are actually the ones who try to stand in the way of overdevelopment. So you got to give them their
yes, it's
credit.
actually true that our red counties are the ones that are better at halting development than our blue counties.
Let's talk about something positive, because I think there's something that maybe a lot of people don't know is what ultimately inspired you to do this. Because a lot of times we think about, we do emphasize how AOC's victory over Joe Crowley really opened up the floodgates for a lot of progressives in the state of New York. We would very much love to hear, what was sort of your origin story and what brought you to this.
The origin story. It's like a superhero. It's like the superhero saga.
Well, she is a little bit of a superhero. Okay, so let's hear it.
I love the origin story. So if you speak to my mother, she will say that I first told her I was going to be mayor when I was about 8. I don't remember that, but I do remember last summer. I remember being executive director of a nonprofit housing development agency and having people call me because their water was shut off, or they didn't have food. And, I remember the mutual aid networks popping up all over Buffalo. And I remember going and people donating their stimulus checks to me so that I could buy food and we could deliver it to seniors and people in our neighborhoods who felt like they had been forgotten, right? And I think about the uprisings last summer after the murder of George Floyd and the response from our leadership. It was awful. It was terrible. And I got on the phone with my mother and she said, I don't know why you continue to stay there. You need to leave. And you need to bring your children down here because they'll have a better future.
Where is that?
My mother lives in Phoenix City, Alabama.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be a big jump. I'm sorry. I just had to know where down there was to have a frame of reference as to how far down
it was.
It was far down. Right. Well, for all I know, it could have been like, one town south. So anyway.
So my family, I have a lot of family in Columbus, Georgia. And my mother says that, all over the country, even in the South, they need people like me. So I told her I'm going to run for mayor because if I can't change things here, then maybe it is time for me to go. And she said, well, if you lose the primary, you're going to spend at least a year down here with me. So that was my primary motivation. Not only
don't want to go home to the South
to bring change to Buffalo, but to not have the fate of moving my family to Alabama. So here we are.
No, I think that's awesome. You're clearly someone that has been on front lines in numerous capacities as healthcare worker and working in nonprofits. So I'm sure you've seen like the things where you come up against a wall. Mm-hmm. And the only way else to go would be, well, it's sort of like if I was king for the day. It's like, okay, well, if I'm mayor, then I could make sure that that people aren't hitting the same wall that I'm hitting. And I think that that's a really, it's not like an atypical story.
No, but I think that it's a learning experience. And I think that anybody who runs for, political office, whether at the local /city /state /federal level, there is a lot to learn from that. And what we have on our side is that overwhelmingly the people who support you, India, they will do it for nothing. They will do it because they
That's
believe
true.
in what you're fighting for. Whereas the former mayor needs to pay people to support what he's fighting for. And at some point, the joke is always, the thing about socialism is that eventually you run out of other people's money. How about the real truth? In capitalism, eventually you run out of people to exploit.
Yep. That is so on point. And we won the primary election without a single paid staff member. We were an all volunteer team. It's really amazing.
That is amazing. I'm glad to hear that. And I really like Buffalo. People don't realize there's very cool things there.
No, and
there's a Frank Lloyd Wright House, which is for me always a selling point. And also he is a fan of Teddy Roosevelt. And I'm like, okay, so the story about the Teddy Roosevelt swearing in, and it all happened because McKinley was assassinated in Buffalo. And I learned all this from being in Buffalo.
But why? That's a great story also. And Buffalo, of course, the home of the Buffalo Wing. Why was William McKinley assassinated? William McKinley was assassinated because he was the puppet president of the corporate oligarchs. And you wonder about the world we live in today and how much longer people are going to tolerate, the modern day robber barons just buying off these representatives, thinking that people are just going to sit idly by. It's like, you better pray it's a peaceful transition of power, because if it doesn't become, as JFK said, if you make peaceful transition impossible, violent transition is inevitable. And that is what will happen. You can't expect people who can't put food on the table, who can't put a roof over their head, who do not have any prospects in life to just sit on their hands and say, well, that's it. I guess I'm not going to do anything. No, you're going to fight for survival.
So true.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about New York, is that you've got a lot of fighters. There's, like I said, there's a lot of great representation that has changed in the city of New York, but the state of New York is becoming a very strong non-corporate bastion. And the fact that there is no longer a governor who is standing in the way of basically every policy that would be benefiting the state. We'll see what happens with the interim governor. But as I like to say, as Jenna said, if the interim governor were to pass the New York Health Act, should it get to her desk next year, she will be reelected governor. So it's a very interesting,
it's a freebie. It's like a free A class.
It's a very interesting position that New York politics is in right now. And with having somebody like you at the levers of power, I think it will grow exponentially. And I would hope that, knock on wood, everything does go well over the next 5 weeks. You have the blueprint. I would think people would be knocking down your door all the time saying,
how did you do that?
What's your sauce?
But and you know this, India, because it's like a perfect storm of things that have to come together. It's never one thing. But it really does start with having a good candidate. It's really not that. And you need to be someone that people like. It's really not that complicated to figure out. People don't really vote for issues as much as they vote for people. And it's unfortunate that that's how it is, because we'd rather them think of issues, but you are extremely likable and very warm and very regular person. And I think that resonates.
But do not mistake her kindness for weakness.
God, no. And I think that people get that. I'm very pleased. I'm so thankful that you agreed to come on here. I've been kind of fangirling over you for a few months now. And I know, it's serious balls. People don't understand what you're going up against. And I do to some extent. I understand how ugly that is and what that looks like. And people don't know. It's brutal. It's brutal. And no matter how thick-skinned you are, this is going to leave some marks. Yeah. It leaves scars.
It's tough. And, I always say that the things that I've gone through in my life have served to make me stronger so that I can fight fights for folks who may not be able to. I really appreciate the time. Thank you for inviting me. And thank you for your support. And hopefully we'll have a follow-up once I win. And
okay, let me tell you, if you come back after you win, that would be the best, because then I'd be like, okay, look, and she didn't even big league us. she didn't big league us. Like, you know, and you strike me as someone that doesn't do that anyway, but I think that that's really cool. So I'm so appreciative.
And we'll have more of an opportunity at a later date to talk about the Bills. Obviously, it's too early in the season right now, but I do think that they have a real shot this year. They've been knocking on the door for quite some time. It looks like Kansas City is. I mean, listen, every team's great run eventually.
Oh, for
comes
God's
to an
sake,
end.
he's back on.
And so you've gotta seize the opportunity. I mean, I have a couple of very good friends who live in Nashville, and they're very excited about the Titans. So it's going to be a new opportunity for somebody this year.
It is.
Yeah.
Listen, we have the governor of New York is from Western New York. We have a mayor that's going to be mayor of Buffalo that's actually from Buffalo. I think 2022 is going to be the year of the Bills.
Okay. Well, you know,
right
look,
now.
again, I have nothing but care for the Bills. You know, I mean, I grew up you're younger than me, but when I was growing up, I believe that Jim Kelly and Dan Marino were in the same class.
They were.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So like, I remember that very, very clearly. And I remember, and granted, yeah, we would root against them, but again, too much hate towards the Patriots. Like we really need to all focus that energy of hate on the Patriots and kind of come together.
Well, amazingly enough, and of course, Indy is not going to like the fact that I am a New York Giants fan because that is the closest the Bills ever came from winning the Super Bowl. But the thing that I remember as a child, the thing that I remember the most about that Super Bowl, aside from what happened with Norwood, is
the Norwood field goal
was Whitney Houston singing the national anthem, which to this day, that's the best national anthem I've ever heard.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was that same year.
The one. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, very interesting. I still use that Scott Norwood thing as a reference for when people blame an entire loss on one person.
Well, that's
like
Ray Finkel and Ace Ventura. So that's the Miami Dolphins version of it. I'll just say it.
Anyway.
But I really do think that you guys are going to have a great year. And I think the city will be even that much greater if you are elected mayor. And I know that there was a question in the chat about what you would do if you were mayor in regards to the proposed new stadium. Listen, here's all you have to know, guys, about professional sports stadiums. They are absolutely good for the local economy, but the people who are building it, the owners of the team, they're the ones who have to pay for it, not the taxpayers.
Well, absolutely. And I always say, like, what other business do you have the people pay for your business to be built?
When you have mayors like the former mayor of Buffalo, that's how you get the taxpayers to pay. If a mayor like this lovely lady is mayor, that's not happening. No. And that's one of the reasons why they come after her. And so, guys, IndiaWalton.com,
support,
phone bank, text bank, donate. And if you are anywhere
5 weeks,
within the Buffalo area, whether you're all the way in New York City, remember trains go there, buses too. Or if you're in Toronto and want to cross the border, if you are in Syracuse or Rochester, or if you're in Cleveland or even Pittsburgh, get in the car, get up there, lend a hand. She needs it. Let's make sure we do not make the same mistake with Nina Turner, even though Nina's running again. But I digress. We digress. We are really pulling for you, and we are very grateful you came on today.
Thank you, Indy. It was so nice to meet you.
Thank you so very much.
Bye.
Have a great day. Well,
see, and I say this every time someone comes on, I'm like, well, she was just lovely.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's why I do this. She was just lovely. You know what? I knew she would be. Anybody who is fighting that kind of uphill battle and has like the balls to take that on is somebody that I'm going to like.
She has 0 F's to give. She is very inviting, but she is a fighter.
Oh, no, she's got F's to give because if she doesn't win, she's got to move down to wherever that is in the South with her mama.
The Deep South.
The Deep South.
Yeah.
So we've got some personal motivation there, which is
But I
cool.
think that I'd like to think that she'll be able to hang on. It just, at some point, people are just like, where are the people who should be saying, man, you're a sore effing loser?
Well, you know what, though? The problem is that the people get behind that because they're so scared of any change and they're scared of their gravy train ending. Think about all of our insider operative Dem people here. What would happen to them if Debbie was no longer there?
This is also,
they worry about losing their status.
This is the whole point, guys. This is why if Jen were to run again, she would be exceptionally more viable than she was the first time.
And we'd also be exceptionally more under attack.
And if you think you've seen Debbie at her worst yet, oh no, it'll get 10 times worse.
She'll be
Because that's
vile.
what, because Debbie's the type of person who's liable to have somebody throw a brick at your house.
Yeah,
You know,
she's
it's-
pretty
it's stuff
vile.
like
Well,
that.
fortunately, I'm actually moving, so which is why we had talked a little
Maybe
bit
she'll
about
assume that
changing studio. But the reason there is now this big blank spot behind me, and I'm very proud to say this, is I sold a piece. So yay!
it was enough to buy a new house.
It was enough to buy a new house. No, it wasn't. Anyway, so yeah, we're gonna have a new setup coming in the next couple of months.
So Thursday,
What do we have?
we have Thursday, we have Ron Placone, the great comedian Ron Placone. We'll have a special guest candidate,
possibly.
We're
still working this. And this is the fact that we would pretty much do this at any time of day. Well, the reason we did this now is because this was when India was available. And we never were designed to always be a live stream. Like, I mean, this was really more of a podcast, but yeah, she was great.
No, and
I do like Buffalo. I do. I like, for the most part, I like that vibe. I like the Midwest vibe. I like the Great Lakes city vibe.
I'm not a big fan of big cities. I'm just not. I mean, I like Chicago. I had a good time when I was there, but Chicago has a lot of problems, and ones that really don't get highlighted if you've ever taken the train from O'Hare into the city.
Okay, I lived in Chicago.
So it really is a city of the haves and the have-nots. It really is.
I just think that we're also looking at comparing cities that are so overpopulated versus cities that are underpopulated.
That is
and I don't
true.
know the population dynamics of Buffalo to that extent, but I do recall when we were in Cleveland liking it so much more. And a lot of that is like, people don't realize when you live in a place that's overpopulated, like in South Florida, there's always traffic. There's always traffic. It could take you 20 minutes to go 2 miles. It could take, like, there's always traffic. There's always lines. There's always trouble finding parking.
And there's only so much resources to go around. There's only so much housing to go around.
Too many people.
That's right. And that's one of the reasons why I happen to like Washington, D.C., because it is very rigorously structured in that it doesn't become overpopulated. It's still got a lot of traffic, but that has as much to do with the fact that it's one of the most visited places in the world. So there is that factor. And that, to me, the small, mid-sized cities.
Yeah, Turkey Day. That's what we were talking about. That's one of the things that I brought up in the beginning, was that Buffalo is much more like those cities that are industrialized and that have been completely demolished from our trade agreements. But fortunately for them, at least they're not in a right to work state.
Yeah.
So there is, but it was immediate that she basically drew the link between labor and what's happening. So, I mean, I think, that's really where this is going.
And again, there's going to be a lot more India Waltons popping up than Byron Browns popping up.
You shouldn't have even said the name.
Yeah, I
shouldn't
shouldn't
even say the name.
Okay. Don't give him any name recognition.
No.
Which is kind of like a big part of the battle anyway.
But yeah, guys, get on and support India.
Yeah.
She's great.
She's and again,
all you see about her is stuff
coverage.
And she is smeared.
Right. But where are all the where are the independent media circuits? The only one that I've seen is Status Quo. We need more of you guys covering this. This race needs all the attention it can get.
It really does. It's a big deal.
Because where else is she going to get it? I'm not expecting the who shall not be named leader of the nihilist movement. It's not even the left movement. It's just the nihilist movement.
They're just angry, belligerent people.
If you guys really cared, it would mean a lot if you paid attention to this race.
So maybe, just maybe, for one day of clicks.
And just remember, you're not trying to elect somebody to go to Capitol Hill and get stonewalled by all the corporate special interests there.
No, this is someone who can actually get in and do things.
When you're a mayor,
you get things done.
You pull the levers of power, baby. That stuff gets to your
I
desk.
just wish that the people in alternative media would spend a little less time bitching about the squad and a little bit more time promoting candidates and races like this.
You had a problem, as we did, with AOC's present vote. You talk about it in one segment, highlight it, share it, do it all you want. You want to talk. You want to talk about it for 2 weeks straight.
There's other things to talk about.
There is, because there's going to be plenty of other votes that are going to come up. And the reality is, even though her vote was not a good vote.
No, that's not a good vote.
It's the whole concept of the present vote.
It's unacceptable.
Correct. Vote yes, vote no. It wouldn't have mattered anyway because that thing was passing.
I just take the stand and take the heat. If you cannot do those two things, you do not belong in a legislative body.
No. But again, that's why I've been saying for a while that AOC is way too caught up with being a celebrity. And that's a problem, because what ends up happening very often with celebrities is that they only surround themselves with yes people, constantly being told how wonderful they are, theories of grandeur. They will always come out on top, and nothing they do is ever wrong. And once the heat is on their back, they are very thin-skinned about it and don't know what to do about it.
Well, and I think it's especially comes into play, and I always say this about her, with age and experience. And I think that somebody who came up as young as she did, from where she came from, out of kind of like this obscurity, it's a really unusual scenario for someone that young to be given that kind of a spotlight.
It's also part of the reason why we wanted Nina to win so badly, because she would have taken some of the heat off of AOC, which she desperately needed.
The heat will definitely be transferred over to Nina.
So now, if Nina looks like she's
we're hopeful.
prepared.
Well, look, she filed. She filed. Also, something we should just briefly mention is what's going on with the Julian Assange, that the information just came out.
Well, I thought that we were going to have that as one of our stories for Thursday.
Oh, well, we can, but people need to be aware about the information that was just came out.
Yeah, they tried to kill Assange, but
and had whole different strategy plans, assassination plans.
They were prepared they were prepared to try to drag him out of the embassy in the streets and have a shootout
in Ecuador.
The
Ecuadorian embassy
in London. They were prepared to have a shootout in London.
This was something that just made sense to them. And what's so scary about it is that the voices of reason, if you would call them that, were people like Jeff Sessions that were simply saying, no, we'll get him legally. As if getting him legally is even legal, because I would argue it's unconstitutional. But anyway, so the reasonable people were the ones saying, we'll just keep him incarcerated. And the other people were making assassination plans. This is what was going on. Mike Pompeo was staging, had literal blueprint plans to assassinate Julian Assange.
Just as Hillary Clinton once said, can't we just drone bomb this guy? They talk about murder like it's such a
and that should be a sign to you that for them it is like that. Yeah. If somebody can just say that like that, like Hillary can just say that, clearly that's on the table for her.
It's also partially why one of the reasons why having such a nonchalant attitude about going to war is a really big problem. You can say what you want about certain elected representatives, especially on the GOP side, but the one thing about Rand Paul as a GOP senator, he always votes against war because he knows what BS it is.
Well, and his reasons, I was going to say, his reasoning is not necessarily my reasoning, but I don't really care. An anti-war vote is an anti-war vote. And that is also one of the reasons why people like Ron DeSantis will be more appealing to people, because they have served.
Yeah. And
it does matter.
But can you imagine that he's off doing a fundraiser in Buffalo, New York today?
And we would have never known that. Wow. How would we have even
known that? We wouldn't have, because that's somebody who's on the inside who's letting you know that, he's up here raising probably 6-7
he's
figures.
Fundraising for his governor race in 22.
But he's really fundraising for becoming the next president.
That's really what it is.
It's pretty damn clear.
So he's already, I can't believe he's in Buffalo. What's the link other than the money? I mean, there's obviously a corporate money link, but it's
there is conservatives. Like I said, there's a lot of conservative counties in Western New York. But
Buffalo is pretty blue.
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
Buffalo is really working people.
There could be there's a lot of dinos out there. Remember, Democrats for Reagan? That was a thing, right? Just like Republicans for Biden. Guys, it just depends.
Well, or you have old school Dems that are so freaked out at the concept of having a socialist come in there that they're like,
Eduardo, if you signed up to become a patron, we got to go check. I apologize if you did.
But wait, but it's not this shirt.
Yes.
It's a jersey.
Do I have to go run and get the
jersey?
No,
it's a jersey. It's really cute. If you have signed up, Eduardo, to be a patron
on our Patreon,
if you signed up as either a $10 or a $25 patron, you will get the shirt.
Yes.
And it's a cool shirt. I designed the shirts.
And he gets, does he get the sticker too?
Everybody gets the sticker right now.
You get the Lulu sticker too. So there you go.
I'd have her come on, but it's really a little early for her. She's much more of a night dog.
Well, she was here.
She's hibernating.
She's a little. Well, she was here at the very beginning.
She's hibernating. Lulu's really not a day dog. She's
obviously got a lot going on right now, and we're very appreciative that you guys are here. Sorry we didn't give you advance notice. This was sort of a last minute
thing. And there might be another one of that coming up on Thursday,
possibly as well. But we're flying by the seat of our pants. We're doing the best we can. I hope you guys are enjoying it. What else can we say? I'd like to think that we're doing a decent job, all things considered. Like they said,
I can't believe how we keep losing subscribers by mass. Like on YouTube, and I don't think it's people unsubscribing.
No.
I think it's they get unsubscribed.
Of course they do.
Because I can't imagine that many people got off of like an episode of this and went, well, goddamn, unsubscribing. Like that just doesn't make sense. Most of the time, if you're subscribed, you don't even really remember what you're subscribed to.
The reality is, as long as we're making relationships with the right people, they can do whatever the hell they want to.
But yeah, guys, spread the word, spread the generation.
We're very grateful that we've made a good enough impact where the prominent people who have come on our podcast are not looking at, well, how many subscribers they have, how many views.
Right. We don't. I don't know.
They know that the conversation's good, so that's what matters.
We've had guests, numerous guests, who have come on this show that have been on mainstream shows who have said this is the best show they've been on. We have. I've had it multiple times. People say that to us, and I think it's just because we're just that cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's because we don't have really any sort of like underhanded agenda. I don't play got you. Yeah, no, it is the algorithm. We don't play got you. And I even we had a candidate forum last night, and there were definitely was people that we prefer more than other people in this race. And yet we're not playing gotcha. We're not doing that. That's not I don't feel the need to do that.
And we could have.
And boy, would we get clicks.
Yeah. And there was an opportunity.
Although we will be doing a clip of Del Holness singing the Bob Marley song, because that was actually kind of cool. And that actually kind of, impressed me that he participated and played along.
Well, again, sometimes people evolve.
And I will give him that clip out there. Like, yeah. I think that's fine. But yeah, we're just trying to, make
help. The world a better place.
That's what we're trying to do.
It's not that hard. You just gotta, you have to put the interests of everyone ahead of the interests of just yourself.
Did you send out an email about the town hall I'm doing tonight?
I sent the list over to my...
So tonight I am doing a Medicare town hall that is a fundraiser for Erica Smith, who is running for U.S. Senate in the state of North Carolina. I think it's...
Check out that podcast.
Yeah, it's tonight. It's, oh God, I don't even know what the link is.
At 7:30.
No, it's 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
It's 7 o'clock tonight. It's a Medicare for All virtual grassroots fundraiser. And I know that it's me, Cara Eastman, and there was a third person.
Rosa Calderon.
Okay. Who is moderating And I really don't know exactly what my role is.
Steiner is also going to be there.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. So that'll be fun. And guys, definitely show the love for Erica Smith. Right now that I know of, we have we have a couple people running in Florida, non-corporate Senate candidates, but you've got Erica Smith in North Carolina and you've got Morgan Harper in Ohio. And these are really important seats.
But first and foremost, you have India Walton's mayoral race, and you have Florida's 20th congressional seat, both November 2nd, 5 weeks from today.
And these are important seats, guys.
Highly recommend you get involved. We'll see you guys Thursday night.